He'll lose everything if I play this right. My name is Ryan, I'm 40 years old, and I work as a software engineer from our home in Tacoma, Washington. That message wasn't meant for me to see, but when I was updating our shared tablet that morning, syncing family photos and school schedules, her private text thread loaded automatically. The backup had pulled everything from her phone. I sat there in my home office, coffee growing cold, reading words my wife Lena had sent to someone named Patricia Hoffman. The name meant nothing to me then, but the message made my stomach drop. She was talking about me like I was already gone, like I was some obstacle to remove, rather than the father of her children. For 3 years, I had handled morning drop-offs while she slept in. I cooked dinner most nights because she said the kitchen stressed her out. When our daughter Maya had pneumonia last winter, I was the one who stayed up all night monitoring her breathing while Lena complained about missing her book club. When our son Jacob needed help with his science project, I was the one cutting cardboard volcanoes at midnight. I thought we were building something together. I thought the late nights I spent debugging code to pay for her yoga classes and weekend trips meant something. When she said she needed space to find herself, I gave it to her. When she said my work schedule was too demanding, I rearranged my entire day around her needs. But sitting there scrolling through weeks of messages I was never supposed to see, I realized how wrong I had been. She wasn't trying to fix our marriage. She was planning to end it, and not just end it, destroy me in the process. Judges eat that up in custody cases. She had written, mental instability angle works every time. I closed the tablet and went back to my morning routine, made the kids breakfast, packed their lunches, drove them to school like nothing had changed. Maya chatted about her upcoming spelling bee. Jacob showed me a bruise from soccer practice. Normal Tuesday morning things, but something had shifted. When I looked at Lena over dinner that night, watching her laugh at something on her phone while the kids told her about their day, I saw someone different, someone who had been studying me, planning, calculating how to take everything I cared about. She kissed my cheek when I cleared the dishes, asked how my day went while texting someone under the table, smiled when I reminded her about Maya's parent-teacher conference on Friday. I had always thought marriage meant partnership. Turned out for her, it had become warfare, and I was losing a battle I didn't even know we were fighting. We met 8 years ago at a coffee shop in downtown Seattle. She was reading Hemingway, complaining loudly to her friend about men who didn't understand literature. I should have paid attention to the tone, but she was beautiful, confident, and seemed impressed when I mentioned I had read the same book in college. 6 months later, we were living together. A year after that, engaged. She quit her job at the marketing firm when Maya was born. Said she wanted to focus on being a mother. I supported that decision completely, worked extra hours, took on freelance projects, made sure she never had to worry about money. Looking back, I can see when things started changing. It was subtle at first. She stopped asking about my work, started rolling her eyes when I talked about projects I was excited about. When Jacob was born 2 years later, she began treating me more like a roommate than a husband. "You work too much," she would say, when I stayed late to finish a client deadline. But when I tried to cut back, she complained about money being tight. When I suggested she return to work part-time, she accused me of not valuing her contributions as a mother. The contradictions piled up slowly. She wanted me present but not involved, helpful but not controlling, successful but not absent. I spent years trying to decode what she actually wanted, adjusting my behavior based on her shifting expectations. Then there were the friends she started keeping, women from her yoga studio who talked constantly about their divorces, how they had taken their husbands for everything, how family court always favored mothers. She laughed along with stories about men who lost their homes, their children, their dignity. I should have noticed how often she brought up these conversations, how she started asking pointed questions about our finances, whether my name was on both our cars, how custody arrangements typically worked in Washington state. Last month, she insisted we see a marriage counselor doctor, Elizabeth Reed. At first, I was hopeful. Finally, we would work on our communication problems. but the sessions felt strange. Lena would recount arguments I didn't remember the same way, paint me as controlling when I had spent years giving her complete freedom. Ryan has anger issues, she told Dr. Reed during our third session. I sat there confused because I rarely raised my voice. He gets paranoid about money, accuses me of spending too much. The counselor asked me to respond. I explained calmly that I had never accused her of anything, that I handled our finances because she said she hated dealing with bills and budgets. See, Lena said, he's doing it again, making me sound irresponsible. That night, she was unusually affectionate, apologized for being difficult, said she was just stressed about us. I believed her like I always did. I should have wondered why she suddenly wanted our conversations recorded for therapy homework. The full scope of her plan revealed itself over the next 2 weeks as I kept finding more messages. Patricia Hoffman turned out to be a divorce attorney who specialized in high-conflict cases involving unstable spouses. Their correspondence went back 4 months. Document everything, Patricia had advised. Any time he raises his voice, seems controlling, or shows signs of paranoia. We need a pattern. Lena had been trying to provoke me. The marriage counseling wasn't about saving our relationship. It was about creating evidence. Dr. Reed wasn't there to help us communicate. She was there to witness my supposed instability. I read about Lena's strategy to manipulate our joint accounts, how she planned to move money into accounts I couldn't access, how she intended to claim I was hiding assets when I had always been completely transparent about our finances. She even discussed having her sister Rebecca testify about my alleged controlling behavior despite Rebecca barely knowing me. The recording idea is perfect. Patricia had written, "If you can get him to lose his temper on tape, we'll have everything we need." That explained the sudden interest in working on our marriage. The request to record our discussions for therapy. The way she had started bringing up sensitive topics right after pressing record on her phone, I thought about confronting her directly, walking into the kitchen that morning and laying the messages out on the counter, demanding an explanation. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the memory of all those conversations with her divorced friends. How they described their ex-husbands as crazy, paranoid, unstable, how the courts had believed them without question. Instead, I sat in my office and did what I do best. I researched. Washington was a single-party consent state for audio recordings. I could legally record conversations as long as I was part of them. Our home security system could be upgraded to include audio with proper notification. Phone calls could be documented. I had spent months playing defense without knowing there was a game. Now I understood the rules. That evening, Lena tried again to provoke an argument. She brought up money, accused me of being secretive about a client payment. Her phone sat conspicuously on the counter between us, recording. I could see the red light. "You're right," I said calmly. "I should have mentioned that payment earlier. Let me show you the invoice so we can budget it properly." She looked frustrated when I pulled out my laptop and walked her through the project details. Patient, reasonable, completely transparent. "Are you feeling okay?" she asked, after 20 minutes of failing to make me angry. "You seem different." "Just tired," I said. "Long day debugging code." But I wasn't tired. For the first time in months, I felt completely awake. She wanted to play games with recordings and documentation. I had 8 years of experience building systems that captured every detail, every transaction, every interaction. She thought she was hunting me. She had no idea I was already 3 steps ahead. My first mistake was thinking I could reason with her directly. 3 weeks after discovering her plan, I decided to test whether she might abandon it if I showed her how good we could be together. I arranged a weekend getaway to the coast, just the 2 of us, while my parents watched the kids. I booked us a room overlooking the water and ocean shores. Made reservations at the restaurant where we had our first anniversary dinner, planned everything she used to say she wanted. Time alone, no distractions, no work calls. The weekend felt promising at first. She seemed relaxed, affectionate. We walked on the beach Friday evening, talked about memories from when Maya was learning to walk. She even mentioned wanting to plan a family vacation for summer. Then Saturday morning, she started recording again. "I've been thinking about us," she said over breakfast, her phone positioned just so between the coffee cups. "Do you think we're compatible long term?" I should have recognized the setup. The loaded question designed to make me defensive. Instead, I answered honestly. "I think we've hit a rough patch, but yes, we have 2 beautiful kids and 8 years together. That's worth fighting for." "But what if one person has changed?" she pressed. "What if one person wants different things now?" "Then we figure out how to compromise like adults." She kept pushing, trying to get me to say something she could use. When I stayed calm, she switched tactics. "Sometimes I feel like you don't really see me anymore. Like I'm just someone who takes care of the house while you focus on work." That stung because it was partially true. I had been working more hours to support her lifestyle choices, but I explained that my long days were about providing for our family, not ignoring her. "See, this is what I mean," she said. "You always make it about money. Like that's all that matters to you." The conversation continued for an hour. Every response I gave, she twisted. Every attempt I made to understand her perspective, she rejected. By the end, I realized the weekend wasn't about reconnection. It was about getting me isolated, recorded, and frustrated enough to lose my temper. I didn't give her what she wanted, but that Sunday, driving home, I saw her texting rapidly. Her lawyer was probably getting a full report about my supposed emotional distance and financial obsession. Monday morning brought the real consequence of my attempt at reconciliation. Lena announced she had scheduled an appointment with a different marriage counselor, Dr. Michael Stevens, who specialized in high-conflict relationships. She had already provided him with background about our communication problems. "I told him about your anger issues," she said casually while packing Maya's lunch. "How you get defensive when I try to discuss our problems." I had never shown anger, never been defensive. But in her version of events, my calm responses were evidence of suppressed rage. My willingness to discuss finances was controlling behavior. My attempts to compromise were manipulation tactics. The appointment was scheduled for the following Friday. She insisted I attend, said it was crucial for our marriage. What she didn't say was that Dr. Stevens was known for his detailed case notes, notes that could be subpoenaed in custody proceedings. That week, she escalated her provocation attempts, criticized my parenting in front of the kids, made expensive purchases without discussion, then accused me of being controlling when I asked about them, started arguments right before bedtime, then complained I was keeping her awake with stress. Each time her phone was recording, each time I stayed calm, and each time she grew more frustrated with my lack of reaction. By Thursday night, I realized my strategy of trying to save the marriage was actually helping her build her case. Every therapy session, every recorded conversation, every attempt I made to address her concerns was being documented as evidence of my instability. She wasn't trying to fix us, she was trying to destroy me systematically, and my cooperation was making it easier for her. "Friday arrived, Dr. Stevens' appointment." Lena seemed confident as we drove to his office, chatting about weekend plans like we were a normal couple seeking help. She had no idea I had been recording every conversation for 3 weeks, or that I had already consulted with my own attorney about Washington state custody laws. The game was about to change completely. Dr. Stevens' office felt like a trap from the moment we walked in. The seating arrangement positioned me farther from the door. While Lena sat closer to the counselor, she had clearly described our dynamic in advance because he immediately focused on my body language and tone rather than the content of what I was saying. "Ryan, Lena mentioned you've been having difficulty managing stress lately," he began. "How would you describe your emotional state?" It was a loaded question. Any answer could be twisted. If I said I was fine, I was in denial. If I admitted to stress, I was unstable. I chose honesty. I've been concerned about our marriage. Some days are harder than others, but I'm committed to working through our problems. What specifically concerns you? Dr. Stevens asked, taking notes. I glanced at Lena, who nodded encouragingly. Another setup. Communication mainly. Sometimes I feel like we're having different conversations about the same issue. Can you give an example? Lena jumped in before I could respond. He gets paranoid about money. Last week he accused me of hiding purchases. I hadn't accused her of anything. I had asked about a credit card charge I didn't recognize, but defending myself would sound defensive. I asked about a charge, I said, carefully. Just trying to understand our budget. See, Lena said to Dr. Stevens. He calls it understanding, but it feels like interrogation. The session continued like this for 50 minutes. Every concern I raised was reframed as controlling behavior. Every attempt to clarify was labeled as defensive. Dr. Stevens nodded along, occasionally asking follow-up questions that seemed designed to confirm Lena's narrative. As we left, Lena scheduled another appointment for the following week. She seemed pleased with how things had gone. That evening, I made a decision that would change everything. I called the attorney I had been consulting quietly, Thomas Fletcher, who specialized in fathers' rights cases. I was ready to tell him everything. Bring me every recording you have, he said, and the text messages you found. We need to document this pattern before she files. The next morning, while Lena was at yoga, I visited Thomas Fletcher's office. He listened to 3 hours of recording spanning 4 weeks, conversations where Lena tried to provoke arguments, therapy sessions where she misrepresented our discussions, phone calls where she coached her sister on what to say if called as a witness. This is extraordinary, Thomas said. I've seen manipulation tactics before, but rarely this systematic. She's been building a case for months. He explained that Lena's strategy was textbook. Establish a pattern of alleged instability through counseling records, create recorded evidence of supposed anger or paranoia, line up witnesses who would testify to controlling behavior, then file for divorce and sole custody, claiming she feared for her safety and the children's well-being. The good news, Thomas continued, is that you have evidence of the entire conspiracy, her communications with Patricia Hoffman, the coached responses, the deliberate provocation attempts. A judge will see this for what it is, but there was bad news too. Lena was moving faster than we had anticipated. Thomas had learned through legal channels that Patricia Hoffman was preparing to file within 2 weeks. They were rushing because they worried I might discover their plan. We need to beat them to the courthouse, Thomas advised. File for divorce ourselves and request immediate custody evaluation. Force them to respond to our evidence rather than present their narrative first. I thought about Maya and Jacob, how confused they would be when this all exploded, how their mother's plan would hurt them most of all. Do it, I said. File tomorrow. That night, I tucked my kids into bed like always, read Jacob his favorite book about dragons, helped Maya practice her spelling words, normal Tuesday evening things. Except nothing would be normal after tomorrow. And Lena had no idea what was coming. Thomas Fletcher filed our petition for divorce at 9 a.m. Wednesday morning. By 10 a.m., we had requested an emergency custody evaluation and filed a motion to present evidence of Lena's conspiracy to manipulate the court system. By 11 a.m., Patricia Hoffman was calling Thomas, demanding to know what we thought we were doing. Lena found out when the process server arrived at 3 p.m. I was working in my home office when I heard the doorbell, followed by muffled conversation, then complete silence. 10 minutes later, Lena burst through my office door holding legal papers, her face white with shock. "What is this?" she demanded. I looked up from my computer calmly. "Divorce papers. I thought you'd be familiar with them, considering you've been planning this for months." Her mouth opened and closed without sound. This wasn't how her script was supposed to go. She was supposed to file first, control the narrative, present me as the unstable spouse who had blindsided her. "I don't understand," she said. "We've been working on our marriage, the counseling where you misrepresented every conversation we've had, where you tried to make me look paranoid and controlling." I kept my voice level. "I know about Patricia Hoffman, Lena. I know about your plan. The color drained completely from her face.
I don't know what you're talking about. I opened my laptop and clicked play on one of her recorded conversations with her sister. Rebecca's voice filled the room. Just tell them he gets angry when you spend money, make it sound scary. Lena's response. Perfect. And remember, if they ask about the kids, say he ignores them when he's working. I stopped the recording. I have 4 hours of conversations like this. Your text messages with Patricia, the coaching sessions, everything. She tried to recover, switching to the emotional manipulation tactics I had seen her practice. You recorded me in our own home. That's crazy, Ryan. This proves exactly what I've been telling people about you.
Washington is a single-party consent state, completely legal, unlike conspiracy to commit perjury in family court. That stopped her cold. Patricia clearly hadn't explained the legal risks of their strategy. You're sick, she said, but her voice shook. Recording your own wife. What kind of man does that? The kind who figured out his wife was planning to destroy him? She left the room without another word. I heard her on the phone immediately, probably with Patricia, trying to figure out damage control, but there was no controlling this damage. Thomas had already filed motions to exclude any evidence gathered through Lena's deceptive practices. Her therapy sessions with Dr. Stevens would be thrown out, her coached witnesses would be exposed. The custody evaluation was scheduled for the following week. Instead of defending myself against accusations of instability, I would be presenting evidence of her systematic deception. That evening, the kids sensed tension, but didn't understand why. Maya asked if Mommy was sick because she had been crying. Jacob wanted to know why Daddy looked serious all the time. I helped them with homework like always. Made dinner while Lena stayed locked in the bedroom, presumably strategizing with her lawyer. When she finally emerged, she was composed but different. The confident woman who had been playing chess for months suddenly looked like someone who had just realized she was playing against a grandmaster. We need to talk, she said. We can talk through our attorneys. Ryan, please. This doesn't have to destroy our family. I looked at her for a long moment. The woman I had loved for 8 years, the mother of my children, the person who had spent months planning to take everything from me. You already destroyed our family, I said. I'm just documenting the wreckage. The custody hearing lasted 3 hours. Patricia Hoffman came prepared with her usual strategy, painted me as an unstable workaholic who neglected his family and controlled his wife through financial manipulation. She had Dr. Stevens ready to testify about my supposed anger issues and defensive behavior during therapy. Then Thomas Fletcher played the recordings. First, Lena coaching Rebecca on how to lie about my parenting. Then her conversations with Patricia about framing me as mentally unstable. Finally, the phone call where she practiced crying on command for future recordings. Judge Patricia Morrison stopped the proceedings after the second recording. Counselor, she said to Patricia Hoffman, are you aware that your client has been systematically attempting to manipulate this court? Patricia had gone pale. She clearly hadn't known about the recordings, which meant Lena had been lying to her own attorney about the evidence. Your Honor, we had no knowledge of these alleged recordings. Alleged. Judge Morrison played another clip where Lena explicitly discussed committing perjury. This appears to be your client's voice discussing how to deceive family court. Thomas presented our evidence methodically. Text messages dating back 4 months, audio recordings showing premeditated deception, documentation of Lena's attempts to provoke arguments for evidence, even proof that she had been moving money into hidden accounts while claiming I was controlling our finances. Lena sat frozen as her entire strategy collapsed in real time. Dr. Stevens, who had been prepared to testify about my psychological instability, quietly requested to be excused from the proceedings. Patricia Hoffman attempted damage control, arguing that marital discord didn't invalidate custody concerns, but Judge Morrison had heard enough. This court does not look favorably on attempts to weaponize our legal system, she said. The evidence shows a calculated effort to deceive this court and deprive a father of his parental rights through false testimony. The judge dismissed all of Lena's custody motions, granted me primary physical custody of Maya and Jacob, ordered a complete financial audit to recover the money Lena had hidden, and referred her case to the district attorney for possible perjury charges. As we left the courthouse, Lena walked past me without speaking. Patricia Hoffman was already discussing plea agreements with Thomas, trying to keep her client out of criminal court. I had won everything, the house, the kids, the respect of the court. But standing there in the afternoon sun, I felt empty rather than victorious. 6 weeks later, I was cooking dinner when Maya asked if Mommy was coming home. She has her own place now, I explained, stirring pasta sauce. But you'll see her on weekends. Lena had moved into a small apartment across town. The judge had granted her supervised visitation until she completed counseling for her deceptive behavior. She was bitter about the arrangement but followed it precisely, probably hoping to avoid the perjury charges that were still pending. Jacob had adapted better than Maya. At 6, he understood less about what had happened. Maya, at 8, knew something serious had changed, but couldn't quite grasp why her parents lived in different houses now. I kept their routines stable. Same bedtimes, same schools, same weekend activities. They were resilient, but I watched for signs of stress, made sure they knew none of this was their fault. Thomas Fletcher called that Tuesday evening with news. Lena had accepted a plea agreement, community service, and mandatory counseling in exchange for avoiding jail time. Patricia Hoffman was also facing professional sanctions for failing to properly investigate her client's claims. "It's over," Thomas said, "completely over." I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat in my office where this all began, where I had first discovered those text messages about destroying me. The same room where I had spent months documenting every lie, every manipulation, every attempt to steal my children. Maya appeared in the doorway. "Daddy, can you help me with my spelling words?" "Of course." We sat at the kitchen table together, normal Tuesday evening things. She practiced writing difficult and important and family and careful cursive letters. I had learned that sometimes the most important battles are won not with anger or revenge, but with patience, preparation, and an unwavering commitment to truth. My family was smaller now, but it was real, and that was enough.